continuing to our next topic, and we're still sticking with Major League Baseball. We're going to focus in on the Red Sox. They had a COVID scare, towards the end. I think it was their last spring training day. Matt Barnes was supposed to pitch. He got tested positive for COVID. Then a couple of days later, the Red Sox are saying it's a non-infectious COVID positive. I don't even know what that means. I haven't heard, we've been doing this for a year now, and I still have never heard that, since we've been talking about COVID testing. I have no idea what that is. It sounds like Barnes is okay. Hopefully everybody at the Red Sox is testing negative throughout this last week or so. So it seems like all systems go for the Red Sox for opening day. This has got to be a concern, though, for the Red Sox and for Major League Baseball.
No, unfortunately, this is something that we're going to have to deal with in professional sports for this whole year and maybe next year as well, until we can get more people vaccinated and get to herd immunity and have the pandemic be in the rear view. So we're going to have to deal with this for a while. So it's not shocking to me. And it kind of reminds me of the James Harden situation earlier this year in the NBA where he tested positive, they thought, during the game, and then they said it was a false positive, and he continued to play during the game. And then after the game, they said it was a positive test, and there was just all this runaround, and that's kind of what happened with this Barnes situation. And it made, I think, 8 or 9 people isolate from the team and from the staff. So it was a big deal, and I was glad to see that they're taking the right protocols and they're taking it the cautious way, separating those people to protect the team and to protect the other players. But it's definitely one of those things where I think we're going to have to experience it, unfortunately, over this next year or two in professional sports, in college sports, and even in high school sports. Just here in Massachusetts, I saw a couple of high school football games that were just canceled because of COVID protocols. So it's just one of those things where during this pandemic, we all have to, hey, get through this together and button down and make sure we're being safe and doing things the right way. Go out and get vaccinated, people. If you want to see sports come back, you want to get back in these stadiums, we want to get out of these COVID protocols and having our players and our families quarantined. Hey, go and get vaccinated so we can get out of this pandemic as quick as possible. But it's one of those things that, yeah, I'm not shocked that it happened, but I'm glad to see that the Red Sox are handling it appropriately.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the biggest thing, too, is you saw with Barnes that all the guys that had to isolate because Barnes had the positive test were pitchers, because the pitchers are all together. A lot of times they're all hanging out in the bullpen, or especially when they're at spring training, they're all doing their own thing away from the hitters. And it's, if a pitcher gets it, there's probably another pitcher that's going to get it. You wonder if a catcher's going to get it. So it's just one of those things where you can see that a specific position group, if one guy gets it, sometimes that spreads. In the NFL, we saw with the Denver Broncos, one of the quarterbacks got it, and then the whole quarterback room had to either quarantine or, there's a chance that they got it. So it's one of those things where, you wonder if they're going to try to separate even pitchers, whether it's, this one relief pitcher, maybe one starter work out together over here. There's one relief pitcher and maybe one starter go over here, and, kind of spread out the relievers and the pitcher and not keep all the relievers together, all the starters together, because that was the other thing. If you're missing, 3 starters and you had a guy just pitch the day before, you're going to have a reliever come up and pitch, probably do a bullpen session, and it just gets so complicated. So they might, I wonder if they will try to split up, the positions that way, keep, maybe not have all the outfielders together, maybe not have all the infielders together all the time, that sort of thing. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there, but we're just going to have to, teams are just going to have to live with this, over the next few months at least until everybody's vaccinated. But it's unfortunately, we're just so used to it now that it's just kind of part of our everyday life, hearing that, we both are involved in high school sports, and just hearing these football games that are getting canceled, it's become the norm in the spring season so far here, especially here in Massachusetts. But all this stuff is normal. This COVID case with Barnes is normal. They're going to have to deal with it at some point during the season. Again, I don't think it'll be as bad as last year. And even last year, when we were in the thick of the pandemic, even over the summer when the numbers went down, but we were still very much in the pandemic, MLB had to shuffle some things around in it, but it wasn't that bad. It wasn't, as far as like having to move games around and how many players were infected, it really wasn't as bad as, it could have gotten. So I think this year, especially knowing more and seeing what they were able to do last year, I think they'll be fine this year. There might be a few little ones here and there, but hopefully they can get the 162 games in. I think that'll be certainly the goal, and I think it will happen. It just, they're going to have to move some things around, probably a little bit here and there. So it'll be just fascinating to watch. It's an unfortunate thing, but it's a thing that we can certainly watch this year during baseball season.
Man, that is a lot of games. I always say that. And you got NFL players complaining about getting one additional game. And you got these MLB players playing way too many games, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where if they get all of those games in without a COVID situation, I'd be shocked for all the teams. So it's just one of those things where, unfortunately, we're going to have to deal with it going forward right now until we can get out of this pandemic. But even forward, I'm trying to get us a college football coach on here to interview, but also a high school football coach from Massachusetts so we can talk about the COVID protocols from this spring season. And hopefully we'll have one on in the next couple of weeks here.